Hello and welcome to coverage of Pro Tour Fate Reforged. I'm Marshall Sutcliffe in the booth with Hall of Famer Randy Buehler, and we're ready for round 7 action. We're watching Modern at this stage of the tournament. You get a look at our first feature match competitor, Lee Shi Tian. Lee is playing...
It's Burn. It's pretty straightforward. He's got the White Splash for Boros Charm and Lightning Helix. And yeah, most of the stuff you'd expect from a Burn deck.
Yeah, a much different look from his opponent, Makihito Mihara from Japan, who looks like he is deep in thought here. He's on, it says Grixis Twin.
So he's on Twin, but he has some tech. He has Inquisition of Kozilek and Thoughtseize out of his Black Splash, which I haven't really seen from a Twin player. So that's pretty cool tech to start with. You know what else he has?
What's that?
Well, he calls the deck Humble Twin because he plays 4 copies of Humble Defector.
Oh, no way.
Yes. So the discard suite from Black, Humble Defector from Red. Why not?
Wow, that's cool. I can't wait to see what this thing does. Both of these players are sitting at 4 and 2. And it looks like Mihara, with that very early Inquisition, he saw some bad news. You're playing against Burn, which can be a pretty tough matchup for Twin, as the creatures can be vulnerable to the Burn spells, depending on which ones Mihara is playing. But he did take away an Eidolon of the Great Revel. But that's not going to stop Lee Shi Tian. He's got Monastery Swift Spear as the immediate follow-up play here.
Yeah, Mihara's got a lot of redundancy in the combo. I mean, both Pester Mites and Exarchs, and both Splinter Twins and Kiki Jikis. Haven't seen a lot of Kiki Jiki this weekend, but he's still running it.
All right, so attack for 1 with my Swift Spear, says Lee Shi Tian. He's currently ranked 6th on our top 25 pro rankings. He passes it back to Mihara.
Spellskite blocks all right. It's got the Pester Mite, does not have the Twin itself.
You know, that's not too bad here. Right? Soaks up a burn spell every turn if he gets to untap with it. Can block on the ground if necessary. As you can see, he's not going to block here. Doesn't want to lose his Spellskite quite
doesn't
that
want to get
easily.
it burned.
That's right. But it will eat at least a burn spell over the course of this game, and if he can position it correctly, sometimes it can even take care of 2 or 3.
Yeah, Lee Shi Tian's probably doing something wrong if it gets 3, but
yeah,
it's going to eat like a block and a burn spell or 2 burn spells.
There you go. So
oh, is it? Do we have it?
Steam Vent's untapped here.
Funny. This allows him to both Lightning Bolt the Monastery Swift Spear and... Is it time? See the card at the top of the cards in hand graphic.
He's got it in his hand. Time to get humble? There it is.
How many of you were expecting this particular Fate Reforged card to show up at the Pro Tour? Humble Defector. Tap, draw 2 cards, give this to your opponent. So I want you to imagine that you've put a Splinter Twin on this.
Okay.
And you make a copy of Humble Defector, which has haste, so you tap it to draw 2 cards.
Okay.
And then give it to your opponent. But it's a token, so it vanishes into thin air.
It's also tapped.
Right.
Yeah, so they just don't get a chance to use it ever.
Right. Splinter Twin on this guy is just draw 2 cards a turn for free. I assume that's part of why it's in the deck. I mean, it's also a 2/1, and it's probably not a catastrophe to pay 2 mana to draw 2 cards next turn.
And I mean, look, he just taps it, draws the 2 cards. If he's in a situation where he needs those cards immediately, it's tapped. It's, you know, for the short term,
right?
It's tap, draw 2 cards.
Yeah, you're up 2 cards in the short term.
Yeah, so if you win that turn, for example,
you
also
is
don't
how
have
the deck
to worry
is drawn
about it.
up.
Right. So that seems super cool. Look at poor Lee Shi Tian.
Kiki Jiki can copy it too.
What am I supposed to do here?
Mihara's going to defend it. He's going to pay 2 life to Spellskite and defend it. So he clearly thinks Humble Defender is worth more than a burn spell. Wow. All right. A Searing Blaze takes out the Spellskite. Humble Defender lives.
Defector. Yeah, it's
Defector,
still alive. So we get to see it in action here. Draw.
And Pestermite untaps it, draw 2 more.
So he's going to draw 4 cards here. And Lee Shi Tian just has to shake his head. Look at him laughing. Miharu's not laughing though. He did just ship Humble Defector to his mono red opponent. Remember?
Yeah, I gave him a 2/1 creature.
Yeah, the 2/1 creature is one thing, but also just the chance to draw on average a burn spell or two burn spells sometimes here for Lee Shi Tian is going to be welcome on his side.
I bet Mihara has more practice figuring out when to tap it to draw cards and give it to the other player than Lee Shi Tian does.
That play was sweet. And he just drew 4.
Yeah, Pestermite and Deceiver Exarch obviously combo with it super well.
Now they're just playing Pong. So send it right back over to Mihara. I wouldn't be shocked, though, if it died, right? If Lee Shi Tian's plan is, okay, well, I activate it, I'll get my 2 cards, and now any spell in his deck kills it. No, he's letting him untap with it. This is super interesting.
Wow, speaking of unexpected cards, Seth Manfield playing a burn deck is being forced to deal with having his mountains turn into islands by spreading seas out of a Merfolk opponent who has gotten to 6-0 with Fish.
Marco Lombardi from Italy. We did see Merfolk top 8 the last Modern GP. It's
a deck.
Might be a real thing. Mihara, relatively newly minted Hall of Famer.
Yeah. With a relatively newly minted Spellskite defending him now.
Remember, this is game 1. He's drawn now 2 Spellskites. He's got to be happy about that.
Response.
Lightning Helix targets Pestermite here. Lee Shi Tian does not feel like he can go for Mihara's life total. He just wants to keep the combo out of play.
Jeez, speaking of the combo, how about infinite Spellskites here? And now Humble Defector's getting its beat down on?
Evidently.
It's been a super sweet game so far. That Humble Defector from Fate Reforged is just... It's so funny. It was draw 2, send it back. And now he's getting beaten down by Humble Piker here. Gets in the red zone. 2 Spellskites on board, 1 already in the graveyard, and 1 blue mana at the ready for Mihara. With 2 of them, he can now redirect 1 burn spell to one, another burn spell to the other, and this becomes incredibly difficult for Lee Shi Tian to actually get through because even consecutive burn spells doesn't get a job, doesn't even kill 1 Spellskite now. And even if Lee Shi Tian tries to kill the Humble Defector, he knows he can't do that either. So Mihara kind of has a soft lock on the game right now.
Yeah, the Humble Defector is kind of the... Oh, Kiki Jiki. Good grief. How do you feel about making a copy of Humble Defector with Kiki Jiki?
Look at Lee Shi Tian.
Head in his hand. What is going on?
What just happened to me?
And Humble Defector is like the cool new tech thing that's going on here, but don't lose sight of those Spellskites.
Yes.
That is, I think, a really smart metagame call for Makihito Mihara. He was expecting a field full of burn, and he's just causing nightmares for Lee Shi Tian with those Spellskites. Plenty of blue mana. First one doesn't cost him any life to redirect.
So Marco Lombardi from Italy did win his first game against Seth
wow.
Manfield. The Pern player losing to the Merfolk player.
And Master of the Wave seems pretty good against burn.
Yeah. Mono red, or protection from red.
Yeah.
That means you get to keep all your elementals and things get out of hand there.
11, 18. King 3 life.
Yeah.
Now 18.
11.
This Mihara deck is awesome.
It's awesome.
I
Yeah.
wonder how much of his 4-2 is limited versus constructed, if we have the ability to find out what his draft record was. Well, speaking of Splinter Twins, Yelger Vigersmal just assembled the combo.
Yeah, defeats David Ochoa in game 1 over there.
Oh, Ochoa made it to the King of the Hill table?
With Obzon, he's at 5-1. Though he's down a game. Yelger is very comfortable there. Doesn't want to move it. So
Sounds
Mihara
like
was 2-1.
2-1 in draft,
In
so he's
draft.
2-1 in constructed.
Right.
The spell skites just keep eating burn spells, but Lee Shi Tian drew what he needed. Oh, the burn off the top. He digs with Humble Defector. He hasn't, I don't know what he can find. Wow, he paid
right
for one too many spell skites.
Yes, he did. So those could not be redirected.
Right, Lava Spike is target player.
Yes.
You cannot redirect Lava Spike to your spell skite.
And so is Skullcrack. So, wow, we'll be back with more right after these messages.
Outfit your Magic collection with the newest Fate Reforged accessories from Ultra Pro. You can see the full array of card sleeves, deck boxes, playmats, and portfolios of your favorite Magic artwork at ultrapro.com. Standard is the name of the game at Fate Reforged Game Day. Join the battle on February 14th and 15th at your local game store. Visit wizards.com/magicgameday for more information.
All right, back in the feature match area, let's take a look at our back table there. Lucas Blohan, he's playing against Jacob Wilson. And as we join the match here, Wilson's up a game. Lucas is on blue-red twin, a more traditional.
Lots of twins seems to be floating toward the top.
And they took away Jacob Wilson's birthing pod, but
they did.
He just put some more creatures in and is running Obzon anyway.
Yeah, he's basically... I mean, it's Obzon, but heavily green-whitish. 3 Gavany Townships, 4 Voice of Resurgence.
What does that remind you of?
Right, exactly.
It's funny, right?
No, he doesn't have the Lilianas that most of the Obzon decks are known for. It's not like he took the normal green-black deck and, you know, fiddled around to put Siege Rhinos in. It's more he took the Birthing Pod deck in and just changed it as little as he could. Wiltleaf Lieges are the newest card. Game 1 sounds like it was Wiltleaf Liege, Loxodon Smiter, Voice of Resurgence. That'll get it done.
That sounds very fair.
Sure.
I mean, that's a green and white creature beatdown?
Green and white creature beatdown.
All right, I'm in. All right, looks like Lucas wants to show him an unfair card. Here's Vendilion Click. It says, take a look at your hand. And yeah, it's what we just described. It's a trio of lands, and then a bunch of green and white creatures with a little bit of black for a Siege Rhino. There's a Loxodon Smiter up top, the Siege Rhino you see in the middle. Kasali Pride Mage, great utility spell even here in Modern. And then 3 lands, including Gavany Township, which can be really important in the late game in case Plan A doesn't quite pan out the way that you hope. So Siege Rhino goes to the bottom of the library, but of course, Jacob's going to get to draw a card off of that effect as well, so he's going to replace it with something else. Looks like that was a Razor Verge Thicket that he drew.
These guys are 5-1, so Jacob pretty much picking up where he left off in terms of his Modern excellence.
A Kitchen Finks here for Wilson. That's what he drew. And Blohan is going to keep the beatdown train rolling here. And Wilson's life total falling quickly. Down to 12. Jacob's ranked 15th right now. Lucas, not currently ranked, but he's somebody who's been up and down. Oh, here's Cryptic Commando on Kasali Pride Mage.
Yeah, no Pride Mage for you.
Draw. Yeah. Pride Mage can kind of hang around to add a bunch of damage and also
oh, but here's the Smiter.
Interrupt the combo. But yeah, here's Loxodon Smiter as a follow-up play. I guess it was a Razor Verge Thicket there as well for Wilson. That must have been his regular draw step for that turn. Blohan.
It's hard to imagine Blohan winning this without the combo. I mean, Vendilion Click hits hard, but it doesn't hit as hard as a green-white creature beatdown deck.
Yeah, Jacob has 7 power on 2 creatures. Just bang. Vendilion Click, very efficient even at beating down, but not the kind of efficiency that Wilson's going to get here.
Luke is struggling with this Scry here off the Serum Visions.
That's right. Those 2 cards you see on his right hand. He's trying to really decide. He's got to plan this out perfectly. He put both on top. I saw the second one was a cryptic. First one was a red card, maybe a bolt. Couldn't quite see it. All right, there's that 5th land. So,
Vendilion Click playing defense.
Apparently, what is it blocking? Is he going to block and bolt against the Smiter? Yeah, he is. Why don't we jump over to our main table where we have Makihito Mihara playing his humble version of the
Humble Twin.
Twin deck, yeah.
Or Grixis Twin, if you prefer.
Against Lee Shi Tian, who set that last game up nicely with burn. So
that was really well played by Lee Shi Tian.
Yeah, the interaction at the end was he had 6 points of burn in his hand, and while Mihara had a kind of lock as far as protecting his board state with 2 Spellskites going, Spellskite can only redirect spells to itself that could target it, and both Skullcrack and Lava Spike target players and cannot target Spellskite. So they resolved, and that was the rest of his life. Like you said, he was pretty aggressive, about redirecting, protecting his board state earlier, and it came back to get him there in the end as Lee Shi Tian combined those 2 specific burn spells to finish off Mihara.
Lee Shi Tian closing in on 200 career pro points. They'll get there with a good finish here.
It's a lot of a lot of pro points.
He's got 3 Pro Tour top 8s.
In Standard, Lee was playing Jeskai Ascendancy combo a lot.
True.
And he had the opportunity to play some of that here and has eschewed that for burn.
Yeah, if you follow him on Twitter, he's been pretty public about his ambivalence on this deck choice. He said it was kind of a metagame call for him. He wasn't in love with it, but he was convinced it was the right play, but didn't sound super confident. Just concluded this was the best he could do. Sometimes you just have a read on the metagame where you think you've got the right deck and you know it's flawed, but if you don't expect to run into the bad matchups, then that's what you're supposed to run.
Yep. Lee fetching on his upkeep here.
Yep, hold on.
5.
So it looks like Mihara's considering playing a Pestermite or something of that sort to get in the way, or excuse me, to tap down the Swift Spear.
He's got the whole combo in his hand.
It is interesting, though, because Lee Shi Tian also, he has landfall here. The last thing Mihara wants is to get Searing Blazed.
Yeah, so he's not willing to block.
No, he is Searing Blaze proof. Oh, Lee Shi Tian says, I'll bolt your head in response. It doesn't kill the Deceiver Exarch, and this could be it.
What is Lee Shi Tian holding?
What does he have?
That doesn't kill an Exarch.
No. There are a few cards that the red deck can bring in for the sideboard to try to take care of this matchup. Combust comes to mind.
Oh, there's a Destructive Revelry in his hand. I was like, why would he play the Lightning Bolt there? if he can no longer kill the Exarch, but Destructive Revelry can kill the Splinter Twin itself.
So right now, Mihara is staring at that wooded
Yeah,
foothills.
he's trying to figure out whether to go for it.
It's just the most ominous wooded foothills ever.
And he is going to go for it.
And it will resolve. And here is where Lee Shi Tian. So what's happened
He made
here,
a token. He pointed the untap ability of the token at the initial Exarch.
That's right.
Now's the point where Lee Shi Tian is going to respond.
And if he does this, it'll interrupt that chain. Or I should say, when he does this, it will interrupt that chain. It'll also get an extra 2 damage into Mihara. Yeah, this is very bad news. Now, the upside here, though, for Mihara is, yes, his Splinter Twin will die, but the Exarch will not. And if he's got another one, he can just try to go for it again. And, I mean, how many answers can Lee Shi Tian really have?
Right. Yeah, this definitely clears the path for a second Splinter Twin. Like you say, it's hard for Lee Shi Tian to kill this creature twice, although, I mean, potentially Lightning Bolt plus Searing Blaze could kill it.
And, you know, Lee does have that, both of those here. Also, you know, is Mihara inclined to start blocking at some point here? I would assume no, but Mihara's down to 9. A second Swift Spear, and now Mihara.
Yeah, he's got feels like he has to block now.
He has to block now, yeah. And here's Searing Blaze.
Yep, loses his Exarch.
And that was 5 damage hitting Makihito Mihara that turn, even with the block. So he drops down to 4. And it was a skull crack that got
the skull
Inquisition. Which means he might have one more draw, especially if he's got a Pestermite or he has a Pestermite in his hand here. This is a big draw step for Lee Shi Tian.
Yeah,
So
you run out Pestermite. Mihara needs to top deck a Splinter Twin, or does he have 3 red for Kiki-Jiki? I believe he does.
1, 2, 3. Yes, he does.
6 outs, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, the Kiki-Jiki's considerably worse, given that Lee Shi Tian could easily have a way to interact. Mihara does not look happy, but it's hard to tell with him. Yeah, he's past the turn back, so he didn't immediately go for it.
Let's hope you've drawn blanks stage. If Lee Shi Tian drew a land last turn and draws a land this turn, then
he can
Mihara
take
will
2,
get another draw phase.
And he gets a draw step to try to hit him. If Lee Shi Tian has anything. I mean, Mihara can't block, right?
Correct. He's got to keep Pestermite alive.
He's just got to keep it alive and hope to rip and hope that Lee Shi Tian has nothing.
Yeah, he's dead to all spells.
Right.
I mean, I guess Destructive Revelry has no targets. He's not dead to that one yet, but he would be unable to win through it, so pretty much dead to all spells.
That was a mountain.
Well, last turn was a Bloodstained Mire.
Okay, so it looks like Mihara's actually going to get another draw step.
Gets that one last draw step, and
it was Spell
flip of the
Skite.
wrist. Does that buy him a turn?
Does that do anything here?
Sort of.
Yeah, it does.
He has to block with Pestermite, though, doesn't he?
No, he's at 3.
He's at 1.
He's at 1.
He's not at 3.
He's not at 3. All right. Well, he's now stabilized the board.
He's still dead to most spells.
He's dead to the dome only ones, but like lightning bolts don't get it done. Lightning Helix doesn't get it done here.
No, all fair enough.
Snapcaster Mage to say, yeah, you got 2 lands. I guess he had no other spell to bring back and would prefer to have an Inquisition.
Only legal target.
Yeah. I mean, he assumed that there was 2 lands there. Remember, Lee Shi Tian could just fire it off at him in response. So Lee Shi Tian, now, again, he needed to draw a spell on either of the last 2 turns to win the game on the spot. The subset of cards that win him the game on the spot has shrunk. It is not a spell now, but it's pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, those burn spells will get redirected to Spell Skite, but Monastery Swift is still going to keep attacking.
I mean, he can trade it.
Right.
Like, Mihara can block and force him to have something.
Wow, I think Lee Shi Tian just drew a third land.
He drew a Foothills. He did.
Crazy.
God, is Mihara getting another draw step trying to find Splinter Twin?
Well, he doesn't have the Pestermite anymore, so
of course.
Splinter Twin doesn't actually do anything by itself.
Does he have
2 cards?
What does he have in his yard now?
nothing that nothing for Snapcaster made.
Just no food at all.
Yeah, he would have done better than that Inquisition versus a hand he probably already knew was blank.
Yeah. All right, so Mihara gets another draw step edge.
Lee Shi Tian
Cryptic
is thinning.
command at this point, yeah.
The twin deck on the back table, by the way, Lucas Blohan managed to assemble Snapcaster Mage with Splinter Twin. He was casting Cryptic Command 6 times in the match against poor Jacob Wilson. Just lethal attack, tap them.
I agree with, by the way, the assessment
Tap
of
them.
poor Jacob Wilson in that spot. Oh, he found the lava
There
spike.
we go.
Oh, and he did draw the Splinter Twin,
Yeah.
too.
Drew the twin, but after the Pestromite was obliged to block. So
Huge
Lee Shi
smile
Tian
for Lee Shi
wins.
Tian. Good for him. He moves on to XN2 while Mihara picks up his 3rd loss of the day.
Cool deck, though. Cool tech. I think a lot of people are going to have to look at that deck list and try a lot of angles before we pass judgment on it.
I agree. All right, back on our text table here. This is Lucas Blohan.
This is the game with the 6 cryptic commands. It's not over yet. Oh, he finally slogged through.
What?
6 cryptic commands was not good enough.
How do you beat that?
You just keep turning them sideways.
Wow, so-
Eventually, you get to wait until your attack step to turn them sideways instead of having them turned for you by cryptic command.
By the way, another
Crazy.
win for Gavany Township. You saw those
Sure.
counters on all the creatures. That card has been wrecking the late game.
Fair.
And we're going to jump over
He's on
to
the big bird plan. Birds of
Marco
Paradise was
Lombardi,
5-6.
who is playing Merfolk.
Oh, cool.
And he's up against Seth Manfield, who we saw earlier in the day. And he is on, ta-da, burn. He's burning people out, too.
Merfolk deck's up a game here, though, right?
It is, and I have to say, traditionally, this is not a great matchup for the Merfolk deck. The burn spells can easily manage the board state of the Merfolk player.
Yep. Looks like Marco's got a handful of Pro Tours.
And since the Merfolk deck is so dependent on creating, 2, 3, 4 creatures at once, each one you pick off shrinks the other ones, and eventually they're all gone.
If you get the burn player to point all of his red spells at your creatures, you're kind of winning.
At least you're even.
I mean, the Merfolk deck can win with 1 or 2 cards, just turning them sideways often enough. The burn deck kind of needs 7.
I think the downside here, though, is that like Manfield has cards like Monastery Swift Spear and Goblin Guide that can do that same thing while he just picks off all your creatures.
Potentially, yeah. I'm just saying, I'm not sure the burn side is the better side of this matchup.
Well, right now, looks like neither player has any creatures on the battlefield. There is a Lord of Atlantis for Marco Lombardi, though, so he's back. And there's that Spellskite again. Bane of burn players. It's on the stack right now. Thoughts on playing the Spellskite first and then playing?
I would have played the Spellskite first. I'm surprised he played the Lord followed by the Spellskite.
I'm not sure why he did that, because right now the Spellskite's on the stack and the
Well, I
the
guess
Lord
he
could
wasn't
just-
willing to pay 2 life to save the Lord. He was like, the Lord's job. If the Lord needs a burn spell, I'm okay with that. That must have been what he was thinking.
So you got to prefer to have the option.
Yeah, he just could have given himself an option that he chose not to.
I mean, he does have Seth down to 15 here. He's at 13 himself. Looks like Seth has 5 cards in hand or 4 cards in hand.
Wow, is Marco hellbent? He's holding his graveyard right now.
Yeah, he's no cards. I'll Helix you.
All right, you may as well pay 2 life rather than take 3.
Right. The
Although
only thing it changes.
then there's damage on the Spellskite so that Seth can choose to target it. Marco basically saved 1 life for himself by making his Spellskite vulnerable.
I don't know. I think it's like that's what his job is, right?
I mean, if you untap with a bunch of blue mana, though, now he can start redirecting them
Without the life.
without the pain with the Phyrexian mana.
That's true.
So I assume Seth will just point the next burn spell at the Spellskite.
Shard Volley you.
Shard Volley. Wow.
Lombardi takes it. He's down to 8 life.
Well,
Didn't want to lose the Spellskite there. Gets to untap
Yeah,
with
that
all
seems
that
right.
mana. And here it goes, attacking in there. Manfield draws his card. Now, he's found a lava spike. Yeah, here-
Sounds like Jelger Vigersma is still the king.
What?
Turn 3 Exarch, turn 4 Splinter Twin. I'm comfortable. I'm going to hold on to this chair for another round. Jelger gets to 6-0-1.
We shouldn't have told him about the King of the Hill thing. He really, really latched onto that.
It's 2-1. David Ochoa did get one game from him.
So where do you have me at? You have me at
40, you are at 40.
I'm at 14.
I'm at 5.
So Marco has
Okay.
Seth. Yeah, 14. Okay.
There you go.
Tidebinder Mage now for Lombardi.
2 on tap blue.
Untapped.
It's untapped, Marco, which is not good news usually. Ooh,
Pair of Boros charms.
that could do it right here.
That is target player. Yeah, Marco's going to read it. Can I redirect it?
One.
Can't choose a new mode, so no.
And if that one's going to resolve, this next one is likely to as well. Wow, he even drew the lava spike just in case. And that's going to do
Wow.
it. Seth Manfield. Now, I did see a handshake there.
Was that the match? We were told the Merfolk player was up a game.
Yeah, but it looks like that was a game 3 there.
Oh, that
because-
was game 3?
Yeah, it looks like it. I saw Seth write down 2-1 on his match slip. So, yeah, that must have been. And those games do go really quickly.
Sure.
You know, the burn decks.
All right, so
Battle.
Seth Manfield, 7-0.
Wow.
Yeah, that was 6-0-6-0. So
Yeah.
Seth moves to 7-0. Sitting in
Okay.
great shape.
So he's at 7-0 with mono red and a 3-0 limited performance, and he just beat the Merfolk player who was trudging along quite nicely at 6-0 and still looking pretty good too. I am curious to see if that deck does anything. I know that that's one of those decks that has never had the big finish in Modern,
Right.
but
It's always been lurking around the edges.
people love that deck.
There was a month or two where it was maybe the best deck on Magic Online, but that was a while ago, and it didn't last. So
No, what's the weaknesses to a deck like that?
yeah, I mean, it's just none of your stuff is broken. Like all your stuff is just kind of good, but
Making
like
the mistake of playing fair.
kinda. Yeah, I mean, what do you do against the Splinter Twin player, right?
Right.
Oh, you have Spell Skites, but I mean, your cards aren't broken.
Yeah. All right. Well, why don't we send it back to the news desk and Richard Hagan.
Rounds to go. Let me bring you a few scores that are coming in. Austin Burcevic is up to 7-0. Fantastic job by him. That's because Marco Camilluzzi could not stop the Burcevic juggernaut. For now, Camilluzzi falls to 6-1. Remember, there were 3 Italians at 6-0. Roberto Esposito was there. Camilluzzi, of course, and Marco Lombardi were at 6-0. Camilluzzi falls to 6-1. Now, 6-1, Hall of Famer Zvi Moshevitz, winner of The Solution Pro Tour. That was Tokyo 2001. He is in great shape at 6-1. It's been a while since he's been in the thick of things, and he really is right now. Huge difference, though, between 6-2 overnight, which basically means you need to do it all again and better on day 2 to be sure of your place in the top 8, or 7-1, where you are ahead of the curve and you know that 6 more wins, 5 more wins, and then a draw almost certainly puts you over the top into the top 8. Now, here's a lovely story. Stephen Murray of Scotland, he was posting on Facebook about the most hideous journey to get here. He said, a terrible Pro Tour, and I haven't even played round 1. He went to one continent, his luggage went to another, he missed a plane, he missed another plane, he lost a hotel. It was just chaos, and he was not in great shape coming in today. Well, now that the magic started, rather than the life, well, now things are great. He is 6-1. Congratulations to him. Great shape for the Scot, one of the finest Scottish players there's ever been. Eric Froelich is 6-1. Now, remember, he and his teammates, Paul Cheon and Louis Scott Vargas, who won the Grand Prix last weekend, they all started out 3-0. Paths have somewhat diverged since then. Eric Froelich, 6-1. Paul Cheon, 5-2. He's just been beaten by Stephen Murray, who I was telling you about from Scotland. And then Louis Scott Vargas went from 3-0 to 3-3, but has now won. So Luis will be back on day 2. Really needs to win his last round to get to 5-3 to be in with a realistic chance of even beginning to make that run towards a top 8 berth on Sunday. Who else do we have? Well, at 6-1, we have 2 more J's to tell you about. John Finkel is 6-1. Another Hall of Famer, one of the 2 greatest players of all time. He is in the thick of things. Did he play Storm? I don't think he did. We'll see more with him later on. Frank Carsten, another Hall of Famer, is 6-1. The other J I wanted to tell you about, Jacob Wilson, of course, 6-1. The Podmaster, now just the Modern Master, because he is dominating Modern again. The finalist from the last Modern Pro Tour in Valencia 2014. But as I mentioned, on Thursday, a group of players agreed to come in and chat to us about their hopes and expectations. And we don't often get the luxury of finding time to talk to some of our finest Japanese players. We had a translator on hand, and Shota Yasuoka has already proved that he's a terrific Modern player. He won, of course, the Players' Championship was very much in contention for that. He dominated the Swiss rounds in 2012 of that event with Modern, Ether Vials and the like. So why don't we take a little time now to have a word with Shota Yasuoka.
I'm here with Pro Tour champion, Player of the Year, 371 lifetime Pro Points holder, Shota Yasuoka, also generally recognized as one of the great, exciting deck builders in the game. Shota, I'm really excited to talk to you about playing Magic and get a little understanding about how you build decks. What is your philosophy when you are sitting down to build a constructed deck, specifically, such a big format like Modern?
モダンのね、いろんなデッキがある中で、その中で安岡さんがデッキを作るにあたってのフィロソフィー、哲学みたいなのを少し教えてください。
やっぱり全てのデッキに勝てるようにするというのが一番でかいですね。
His number one goal is to try to beat all the decks that are out there. That's number one.
Yes, and みんながあまり知らないようなデッキ使うっていうのも一つ。
And it's kind of fun to use the deck that nobody really have found out.
Eternal Witness, Ether Vial, Cryptic Command. Now, is that something you consciously try to do? Are you looking to play this crazy deck? I mean, is that you have this reputation as something of a mad scientist when you're building a deck? Do you want to do that, or will you say nope? This is the best deck today, and I'm going to play that. Do you deliberately try to play the crazy deck?
デッキを作る際に、特別ちょっとクレイジーというかみんなが考えつかないようなデッキをわざと使うっていうのが楽しいのか、強いデッキを単純に。
基本的に強いデッキですね。
He trying to build the deck that are good and strong against a lot of other decks.
自分ではクレイジーだと思ってはいないんで。
He doesn't think it's crazy. The decks that he built not crazy.
I mean, good crazy. So now, do you feel like you're at a disadvantage? Like you famously practice by yourself when everybody has super teams. Is that something that works in your favor or works against you when you come to a Pro Tour?
他の国とか他のプレイヤーを見ても、チームでデッキを作ったり調整したりっていう場合がありますけど、安川さんはどちらかというと一人でそれを行われるということで、それっていうのは、アドバンテージがあるかディスアドバンテージだと思いますかっていう、そっちの方がいい？
いや、特には考えてはないですね。やっぱり時間があんまかかんないっていうアドバンテージはありますけど。
一人でやる方が。
はい。
He doesn't really thought about it, but the one big advantage is that it doesn't take too long to. If he works on by himself, it's his time, and it doesn't take too long.
Okay. Now I know you do work by yourself, but you get to a lot of events, all around the world. Are there any young Japanese players who have impressed you? And someone we should keep an eye out for, who's going to be the next, maybe breakout star from Japan.
日本の次のスターは誰か挙げるとしたら誰でしょう？
まあ角前君、テリア角前、
テルヤ角前。
Grand Prix Kobe.
Kobe,
Yep.
yes,
Yeah.
champion.
Burn deck?
Van Dijk, yes.
Yeah, okay.
Yes.
All right.
I
He's
like
going to be
that.
playing this weekend?
Yes.
All right, we'll keep an eye out for him, but we'll also keep an eye out for Shota Yasuoka, Player of the Year, Pro Tour champion. You know, maybe trying to cross the 400 lifetime pro points sometime soon. So, thanks a lot.
All right, so thanks very much to Shota Yasuoka and, of course, to our ability to bring you that with translation. So thanks so much for that. Someone else coming right up, and that is Pro Tour champion Ari Lax.
I'm here with Pro Tour Khans of Tarkir champion Ari Lax. Ari, you waited a long time for your first Pro Tour top 8.
Yeah.
And then when you got there, you made it count. And I was going to ask you if being a Pro Tour champion and making it into the Pro Tour top 8 actually felt any different. But from what I understand, it didn't actually feel any different until today.
Yeah, it really hasn't. And then I was, waiting in line, waiting for registration today with everybody. And then someone looks at me and is like, you know, there's a line for platinum players over there. And I'm just like, oh yeah. And I just ducked out and got in front of everyone.
It's pretty sweet. You also could have used the "I'm getting interviewed" line and gotten in, but that's another thing. So, Team TCG player.
Yep.
You guys have been together for a couple of events now. You have
Yes.
more than a couple, and you have a couple of Pro Tour champions on the team. You have a few top 8s.
Yep.
Tell us about the team and what your preparation was for this tournament.
So it's been very similar to how we've had it. We have the same, we have a set of core members who have remained on the Pro Tour, plus some people who are around the silver boundary who are like usually on. Same process of who is qualified that doesn't have a team, votes, up votes, down votes, get new people in and start testing early as much as possible, but not, go crazy and do 8-hour days every day because some of us have work to do.
Right.
But yeah, I like our new additions. We added a lot of Northeast guys who top 16, GP New Jersey, specifically Jarvis Yu, Ross Merriam. We picked up Alex Magellan for this Pro Tour.
Magellan seems like a good addition for a modern Pro Tour.
If you're going to choose someone, we have a lot of role players on our team. We have Craig Wesco, who plays the Craig Wesco role really well. If you want another role player, Alex Magellan's not a bad place to start.
Right. So, modern. This is a format that you know well. You have a 9th place finish at a Modern Pro Tour earlier, your closest finish before Khans of Tarkir. How do you feel going into a format where the format gets this huge shakeup? Because Modern doesn't usually get a big shakeup from a new set because only a few cards will go into the eternal formats. But there's formats that are established and then there's formats that get shaken up by a banned and restricted list like this one did. Which do you prefer and what's the difference between those two formats?
I don't have a huge preference either way. It's just it's very similar. It's just the results are different. Like one of them, you have like a known target, and in Modern especially, there's ways to, outmaneuver a known target very easily. Whereas with a new format, you have a bunch of unknown targets. You're like, okay, what's good and what's not good, and like you have a little more leeway in your decisions. But that also makes it a little harder because you find something, you're like, is this even good enough? And like you're always digging deeper. Whereas in a known format, you're like, yes, this does what it needs to do. What's next?
Right.
I don't really have a preference. Maybe one's a little more work than the other, but
Do you guys feel like you're able to not only hone in on what the best deck will be in this format, but like what you need to do to beat it?
Yeah, I think it seemed pretty easy this time around.
Yeah. You don't think there's a big guess at stake or anything like that?
There's a few question marks, but nothing I'm too afraid of on a large scale. Like if someone shows up with a great deck that we didn't expect, I don't expect it to be a huge percentage. And, you don't have to beat every single person in the field, just the 13 that sit across from you.
Big part of your win at Pro Tour Khans of Tarkir was limited.
Yeah.
You had a great limited tournament. You taught us all about secret plans and about 5-color in general.
Mm-hmm.
How has limited been going for you with the addition of Fate Reforged, and who really kind of pushed on your team for getting everyone in shape in limited?
I mean, same person as always, Chris Fennell.
Okay.
But I've felt pretty comfortable with Fate Reforged Limited. I mean, I think I've made the finals of the last four of the last 5 moto drafts I've been doing the last few days. So I'll take that as confident. I think our sit-down meeting went well and smoothly, which implies that we all agree on a lot of the things we're saying. And
explain really quickly to people what a sit-down meeting is for a playtest team.
Basically, for Limited, we try to talk about it in advance a little bit and do a bunch of testing. But when it comes down to it, usually the Tuesday or Wednesday before the Pro Tour, we put the setup on the TV, and we just go card by card, usually by rarity. So we say, these are the commons, what are the best commons? How does each common and each color fit? What are the niche uses of this card? Next, the uncommons. And then each uncommon that's good is like, is this better than the best commons? Then each rare is this better than the best uncommons? And so on and so forth. So that went very quickly this time around, very smoothly, and not just because it's a smaller set than usual. I think that's just a sign that we really had the last format figured out, and the new cards being added to it, everyone kind of understands where that's going from there.
Awesome. Well, good luck this weekend, Relax.
All right, thank you so much to Relax. Now he's struggling. He needs to win to come back tomorrow. So he's at 3 and 4. Time to go over to the video wall now. We've got another deck guide for you lined up. Very popular player from North America, but not from America. We go north to Canada. Here comes Alexander Hayne.